before my mate rejected me in front of the entire pack. None of them knew the truth. They thought they were humiliating the weakest wolf in the pack. But that night, they were rejecting the future queen of wolves. Chapter 1. The night my mate rejected me. He chose my sister instead. Not a stranger or another pack member but my own blood. The entire pack stood beneath the silver glow of the full moon when it happened. The sacred ceremony ground was silent except for the distant sound of wolves howling in the mountains. I could still feel the bond between us. Warm, powerful and unbreakable. Or at least that's what I thought. Alpha Damon stood in the center of the clearing, tall and proud, his dark eyes scanning the crowd of wolves kneeling before him. Every member of the pack was there tonight. I stood at the front, my heart pounding so loudly I was sure everyone could hear it. Tonight was supposed to be the happiest night of my life. The night my mate would publicly claim me as his Luna. For years the pack had whispered about it. The Alpha and his destined mate. The moon goddess has chosen her. Even Damon had once told me quietly during training, "Someday you will stand beside me as my Luna." I had believed him. I had trusted him. And most importantly, I had loved him. But as I stood there beneath the moonlight, something felt wrong. Damon wasn't looking at me. Not once, rather his eyes kept drifting toward someone standing behind me. A cold knot tightened in my stomach. Slowly I turned around. And that's when I saw her. My sister. Aria. She stood there in a flowing silver dress, her lips curved in a small knowing smile. My wolf stirred uneasily inside me. Something wasn't right. The elder stepped forward, raising his staff toward the moon. "Tonight," he announced loudly, "our Alpha will present the woman chosen by the moon goddess to stand beside him as Luna." Excitement rippled through the crowd. My hands trembled. This was it. This was the moment. Alpha Damon stepped forward. His powerful presence filled the entire clearing. Then he raised his hand and pointed. But not at me. At her instead. Aria. For a moment I didn't understand what I was seeing. The crowd gasped. My breath caught in my throat. My sister stepped forward gracefully, her smile widening as she walked toward him. "No," I whispered. My wolf howled in pain inside my chest. Damon's voice echoed across the clearing. "Aria is the woman I have chosen to be my Luna." The words struck me like a physical blow. Chosen. Chosen. That wasn't how this worked. The moon goddess chose mates. Not alphas. My legs felt weak. "Damon," I managed to whisper. Finally his eyes met mine. And the warmth I had always seen there was gone. "I, Alpha Damon of the Silver Fang Pack," he declared loudly, "reject you, Arya, as my mate." The world seemed to stop. Gasps spread through the crowd. My wolf screamed in agony inside my mind. Rejection. The most painful thing a wolf could ever experience. My knees buckled as the bond between us snapped like a breaking chain. Pain exploded through my chest. Tears blurred my vision. But the worst part was the laughter. Soft at first. Then spreading through the crowd. My sister stepped closer to Damon, slipping her arm through his. "I'm sorry, dear sister," Aria said sweetly. But her eyes held no apology. Only triumph. "You were never meant to stand beside an alpha." Damon looked down at me like I was nothing. "You are too weak to be Luna." Those words shattered what little remained of my heart. For years I had fought beside him. Trained beside him, loved him. And this was how he repaid me. My wolf whimpered inside me. The crowd watched as I struggled to stand. Humiliation burned through my veins. I should leave. I should run. But my feet wouldn't move. Then suddenly a strange scent filled the air. It was powerful, ancient and dangerous. Every wolf in the clearing froze. The warriors straightened instantly. The elders looked terrified. Even Alpha Damon turned sharply toward the forest. A deep voice echoed from the shadows beyond the trees. It sounded cold, commanding and impossible to ignore. "Well," the voice said slowly, "this is interesting." A tall figure stepped into the moonlight. And the moment the pack saw him, everyone dropped to their knees. Even Alpha Damon. My wolf suddenly went completely still inside me. Then she whispered something that made my heart stop. "Mate." I looked up at the stranger standing before us. And that was the moment I realized something terrifying. The most powerful Lycan in the world was staring directly. Chapter 2. For a moment no one moved. The entire clearing remained frozen beneath the pale glow of the full moon. Even the wind seemed to stop. I was still on my knees, my chest aching from the fresh pain of rejection, but suddenly the agony inside me was no longer the center of attention. Because every wolf in the pack was staring at the same man. The stranger standing at the edge of the clearing. He stood tall. Impossibly tall. His dark coat moved slightly with the wind, and the silver moonlight revealed sharp features that carried a cold, dangerous beauty. But it wasn't his appearance that terrified the pack. It was his presence. Power rolled off him like an invisible storm. Ancient, dominant, and unquestionable. The elders were the first to react. They dropped to their knees instantly, pressing their heads to the ground. "Your Majesty." Their voices trembled. Warriors followed quickly. Then the rest of the pack. Even the arrogant wolves who had laughed at me moments earlier were now kneeling in complete silence. I looked around in confusion. "Your Majesty?" Slowly, realization spread through the clearing like wildfire. Someone whispered the name in horror. "The Lycan King." My breath caught. The Lycan King. The ruler of all wolves. A being so powerful that most packs only spoke about him in legends. And now he was standing here in our territory. In the middle of my humiliation. Alpha Damon stepped forward quickly before kneeling as well. "High King," Damon said respectfully, lowering his head. "We did not expect your arrival tonight." The Lycan King didn't respond immediately. Instead, his dark eyes slowly scanned the clearing. Then those eyes landed on me and didn't move. My wolf stirred uneasily inside me. "He's watching us." I tried to lower my gaze like the others, but something about the intensity of his stare made it impossible. Felt like he was looking straight through me. Like he could see everything. My pain, my humiliation, and the broken bond still bleeding inside my chest. The Lycan King finally stepped forward. Each step was slow and deliberate. The sound of his boots against the stone ground echoed loudly in the silent clearing. No one dared breathe. He stopped a few feet away from Alpha Damon. "So," the king said calmly. "I arrive unannounced and the first thing I witness is an alpha rejecting his mate in front of his entire pack." His voice was quiet but the weight behind it made the warriors stiffen. Alpha Damon straightened slightly. "High King, the situation is under control." The Lycan King tilted his head slightly. "Is it?" His eyes moved again. Back to me. I suddenly felt very exposed kneeling there in the dirt. My dress was torn from when I had collapsed earlier. Tears still stained my cheeks. I probably looked pathetic, broken, and weak. Just like Damon had said. But the Lycan King didn't look at me with pity. He looked curious. He took another step closer. The scent around him became stronger. My wolf suddenly pressed forward inside my mind. "Mate." The word echoed again. My heart skipped. No, that was impossible. The mate bond had already been broken tonight. It couldn't happen again. The Lycan King stopped directly in front of me. I could feel the entire pack watching, even Damon. Slowly, the king crouched down until his eyes were level with mine. Up close, his presence was even more overwhelming. Golden eyes, sharp jawline, and a faint scar running across one eyebrow. But the thing that caught my attention most was the faint glow in his pupils. His wolf was awake. Watching me just as intensely as he was. For several seconds he said nothing. Then he spoke quietly. "What is your name?" My voice almost failed me. "Arya." His gaze darkened slightly. "Arya." The way he said my name sent a strange shiver down my spine. Behind me, I heard my sister shift uncomfortably. Alpha Damon cleared his throat. "My king, she is no longer relevant to tonight's ceremony." The Lycan King slowly turned his head toward Damon. The temperature in the clearing seemed to drop instantly. "No longer relevant?" His voice had become dangerously calm. Damon hesitated. "I rejected her as my mate moments ago." A long silence followed. Then the Lycan King stood up slowly. He looked around at the entire pack. At the wolves who had laughed. At the warriors who had said nothing. And at my sister, who now looked far less confident than before. Finally his gaze returned to Damon. "You rejected her," the king repeated. "Yes, my king." "And you chose." His eyes flicked briefly toward Aria. "Her instead." Aria straightened proudly. "Yes, your majesty," she said quickly. "I will be the new Luna of this pack." The Lycan King studied her for a moment. Then he looked back at me. Still kneeling in the dirt. Rejected, humiliated, and discarded. Something changed in his expression. A faint smile appeared on his lips. But it wasn't a kind smile. It was the smile of someone who had just discovered something interesting. Fascinating. Alpha Damon frowned slightly. King. The Lycan King slowly walked toward him. Then he stopped directly in front of the Alpha. You rejected your true mate, he said quietly. Damon stiffened. I had my reasons. Oh, I'm sure you did. The king folded his hands behind his back. But tell me something, Alpha Damon. His golden eyes glowed faintly. Did it ever occur to you? The clearing went completely silent. To ask why the moon goddess chose her for you in the first place? Damon didn't answer. No one did. Because suddenly the Lycan King turned toward me again. And said something that made the entire pack gasp. I believe. He said slowly. You may have just made the worst mistake of your life. My heart began to pound. Because the way he was looking at me now was no longer curiosity. It was recognition. And my wolf whispered again. Mate. Chapter 3. No one in the clearing dared to speak. The Lycan King's words still hung in the air like a storm waiting to break. You may have just made the worst mistake of your life. Every wolf in the pack was staring at Alpha Damon. And for the first time since I had known him, he looked uncertain. Damon straightened his shoulders, trying to recover his authority. King, he said carefully. With all respect, the choice of Luna belongs to the alpha of the pack. A ripple of tension passed through the crowd. The Lycan King tilted his head slightly. Does it? His golden eyes flickered toward me again. The weight of that gaze made my wolf stir restlessly inside my chest. The broken bond from Damon's rejection still burned like an open wound, but now there was something else beneath it. Something strange. Something new. Something powerful. I could feel it spreading slowly through my veins. The Lycan King turned toward the elders. You witnessed the rejection, he said calmly. Yes, your majesty, the eldest replied nervously. And you believe this woman is truly weak? The elder hesitated. My sister answered before anyone else could. Yes, she is. Aria stepped forward confidently, still clinging to Damon's arm. She has always been the weakest among us. She barely shifts during training and her wolf is quiet. She could never lead this pack. Several wolves nodded in agreement. Their whispers filled the clearing. It's true. She has always been weak. She's not Luna material. Each word stabbed deeper into my chest. I lowered my head, trying to ignore them. Maybe they were right. Maybe I really was weak. Maybe Damon had done the right thing. But suddenly the Lycan King chuckled softly. The sound was low and dangerous. Interesting. He walked slowly in a circle around me. I could feel every wolf watching as he studied me carefully. Then he stopped behind me. Stand up. His voice carried quiet authority. Without thinking, I obeyed. My legs trembled as I slowly rose to my feet. For the first time that night, I stood taller than I had before. But something inside me had shifted. The Lycan King moved until he stood directly in front of me again. His eyes glowed faintly as he leaned slightly closer. Look at me, he said quietly. My heart pounded slowly. I lifted my gaze. The moment our eyes met, my wolf exploded inside my mind. Mate. The word echoed so loudly I nearly gasped. A strange energy surged through my body. My knees almost buckled again, but the king caught my arm before I could fall. The moment his hand touched my skin, a shock of power rushed through me. The ground beneath our feet trembled slightly. Gasps erupted around us. What was that? Did you feel that? I felt the ground move. The Lycan King's eyes narrowed. He was staring at my arm where he was holding me. Slowly, he released his grip and the strange energy faded. Alpha Damon stepped forward angrily. What are you doing? The king didn't answer him. Instead, he spoke quietly to me. When did your wolf last shift? I blinked in confusion. I don't know. That wasn't completely true. My wolf rarely shifted fully. She was always quiet. Almost asleep. The king studied my face carefully. Then he turned toward the elders again. You believe she is weak, he said. Yes, one elder replied nervously. The king smiled faintly. I disagree. Damon scoffed. With respect, my king, you've only just met her. The Lycan King slowly faced him. That's exactly why I find this situation so fascinating. He stepped closer to Damon. Tell me something, Alpha. Damon crossed his arms. What? During your bond with her, did you ever feel something strange? Damon frowned. What do you mean? The king's eyes glowed brighter. Unusual power. Damon hesitated. And that hesitation said everything. I saw it clearly. Damon had felt it before. But he had ignored it. The Lycan King nodded slowly. Exactly what I thought. My sister suddenly laughed. This is ridiculous, Aria said loudly. She's nothing special. Several wolves murmured in agreement. The king turned toward her slowly. Is that so? Aria lifted her chin proudly. Yes. For a long moment the Lycan King simply stared at her. Then he spoke calmly. Very well. He turned back toward me. And what he said next made the entire pack fall silent. Shift. My eyes widened. What? Shift your wolf. Panic surged through me. I can't. The pack erupted with mocking laughter again. See. She can't even shift. She's pathetic. My sister smirked. But the Lycan King didn't look amused. Instead he leaned closer to me and whispered something only I could hear. Your wolf is not weak. My heart pounded. What? His voice was barely audible. She's not quiet because she is small. His golden eyes locked onto mine. She is quiet. The air around us suddenly grew heavy. Because she is ancient. My breath stopped. Ancient? Before I could even process what he meant, something inside my chest suddenly moved. My wolf stirred violently. Power rushed through my veins like wildfire. My body began to shake. The pack fell silent again. Pai King, an elder whispered nervously. What is happening? The Lycan King stepped back slowly. His eyes glowing with excitement. Now, he said calmly. Watch carefully. My wolf roared inside my mind. And for the first time in my life, she answered the call of the moon. The transformation began. And every wolf in the clearing realized something terrifying. The alpha hadn't rejected a weak wolf. He had rejected something far more dangerous. Chapter 4. Pain exploded through my body. It wasn't the painful, uncontrolled shifting I had experienced during training before. This was different. This was stronger. Wild energy surged through my veins like lightning. My bones trembled. My muscles tightened. And my wolf was no longer quiet. She was roaring. A powerful ancient roar that echoed inside my mind like thunder. Finally, the voice was deeper than I had ever heard before. The clearing fell silent as my body began to change. I could hear gasps around me. Someone whispered nervously. She's shifting. But her wolf never shifts. Something's wrong. My vision blurred as the transformation rushed through me. My senses exploded open. I could smell everything. The damp forest. The fear rolling off the pack. The sharp scent of Damon. And the unfamiliar but powerful scent of the Lycan King. Stronger than any wolf I had ever sensed before. Then suddenly the pain stopped. A powerful silence filled my body. For a moment I didn't move. I simply stood there breathing and feeling alive in a way I had never felt before. Then I heard the first gasp. Oh my goddess. Another voice followed. That's impossible. Slowly I lifted my head and saw their faces. Every wolf in the clearing was staring at me in shock. Some looked terrified. Some looked confused. Some looked like they couldn't believe what they were seeing. Even the elders looked pale. My wolf stood tall and proud. But something was different. Very different. My fur was not the usual gray or brown of most wolves. It was deep black. So dark it almost looked like shadows moving across my body. And along my back, faint silver patterns glowed under the moonlight. Ancient markings. The kind that only existed in old wolf legends. The pack stepped back instinctively. What kind of wolf is that? I've never seen anything like it. Even Alpha Damon looked stunned. His eyes were wide as he stared at me. No. He whispered. That's not possible. The Lycan King, however, was not surprised. He stood calmly a few feet away, watching me with quiet satisfaction. Like he had expected this all along. My wolf took one slow step forward. The ground beneath my paws felt alive. Power flowed through me. For the first time in my life. I didn't feel weak. I felt powerful. My gaze shifted toward Damon. The alpha who had just rejected me. His wolf stirred uneasily beneath his skin. I could smell his confusion, his regret and fear. He took a slow step toward me. Arya. My wolf growled low in my throat. The sound echoed across the clearing. Damon froze. And that was when everyone realized something shocking. The alpha's wolf had just submitted. A warrior whispered in disbelief. Did you see that? His wolf stepped back. That never happens. Even Damon seemed to notice. His jaw tightened. This changes nothing, he said quickly. You are still rejected. My wolf's ears twitched. Rejected. The word no longer hurt the way it had before. Because something else was happening now. Something stronger. Something pulling at the very core of my being. My gaze slowly shifted toward the Lycan King. And the moment our eyes met, the mate bond exploded to life. The connection was instant. The force of it made my wolf step toward him instinctively. The pack gasped again. No. My sister whispered in horror. The Lycan King didn't move. But his wolf was very awake now. I could see it in the golden glow of his eyes. He took one slow step forward. Then another. Until he stood directly in front of me. For a moment the entire clearing was silent. Then the Lycan King spoke. His voice calm. The moon goddess does not make mistakes. Every wolf held their breath. He looked directly at Alpha Damon. You rejected your true mate. Damon's face went pale. The king's voice grew colder. And by doing so, he turned his gaze back to me. You freed her. A strange warmth spread through my chest. Like chains breaking. Like something powerful awakening. Then the Lycan King said the words that changed everything. I claim her. The clearing erupted. You can't do that. Aria shouted suddenly. She belongs to our pack. The Lycan King slowly turned his head toward her. And the look in his eyes made several wolves step back. Belongs, he repeated softly. His voice carried a dangerous edge now. No one owns a wolf chosen by the moon goddess. He looked back at me. Then spoke the final words that sealed my fate. From this moment forward. His golden eyes glowed brighter. Arya stands under my protection. Alpha Damon clenched his fists. You can't just take her. The Lycan King's expression darkened. Take her. He took one slow step closer to Damon. The power rolling off him made the warriors stiffen. You rejected her. Silence. You humiliated her. More silence. Then his voice dropped into something far more dangerous. And now. He looked Damon directly in the eyes. You want her back? Damon had no answer. Because everyone in the clearing now understood the truth. The Alpha had made a mistake. A terrible one. And it had just cost him the most powerful wolf he could have ever had beside him. My wolf lifted her head toward the moon. And for the first time the pack did not see a weak rejected mate. They saw something far more terrifying. Something ancient. Something powerful. Something that now belonged to the Lycan King. Chapter 5. Silence fell across the clearing after the Lycan King's declaration. From this moment forward, Arya stands under my protection. The words echoed in my mind like thunder under his protection. The entire pack stood frozen. No one dared challenge the Lycan King. No one except Alpha Damon. His jaw tightened as he stepped forward again. You can't just walk into my territory and take one of my wolves, he said firmly. A few warriors shifted nervously behind him, clearly unsure whether they should support him or not. The Lycan King slowly turned his head toward Damon. Golden eyes glowing faintly. You rejected her, he reminded calmly. That bond is broken. Damon clenched his fists. Yes, but she still belongs to this pack. The moment the words left his mouth, a low growl rolled from the Lycan King's chest. The sound vibrated through the clearing like distant thunder. Several warriors immediately stepped back. Even the elders looked uneasy. The king took one slow step toward Damon. Choose your next words carefully, Alpha. His voice was dangerously quiet. No wolf belongs to a pack that casts them aside. My sister suddenly stepped forward, her voice sharp with anger. This is ridiculous. Aria pointed directly at me. She's nothing special. She's been weak her entire life. My wolf growled again, louder this time. The power behind the sound made several wolves flinch. But Aria didn't stop. She couldn't even shift properly before tonight, she snapped. Now suddenly she's important because of some strange markings? The Lycan King looked at her for a long moment. Then he smiled faintly. You really have no idea what you're looking at, do you? Aria scoffed. Of course I do. The king turned toward the elders. You have studied the ancient wolf records. The oldest elder swallowed nervously. Yes, your majesty. Then perhaps you should explain to your alpha what kind of wolf he just rejected. The elder hesitated. His hands trembled slightly as he stepped forward. I'm not completely certain. Speak, the king commanded. The elder took a deep breath. Then looked at the silver markings glowing faintly along my wolf's back. I believe, he said slowly. Those are shadow markings. A murmur of confusion spread through the pack. Shadow markings? What does that mean? But the elders looked terrified. The Lycan King folded his arms. Go on. The elder continued nervously. In the oldest wolf legends, there were stories about a rare bloodline. Damon frowned. What bloodline? The elder's voice dropped to a whisper. The shadow wolf. The clearing went silent. The elder continued. A wolf born with both alpha dominance and Lycan power. Gasps spread through the crowd. That's impossible. The Lycan bloodline ended centuries ago. The Lycan King raised an eyebrow slightly. Did it? Everyone fell silent again. My heart pounded. I didn't understand what they were talking about. Shadow wolf. Ancient bloodline. None of this made sense. Damon shook his head. This is nonsense. But his voice lacked confidence now. The elder pointed slowly toward the glowing silver patterns on my fur. These markings only appear in one bloodline. His voice trembled. The bloodline that once ruled the wolves before the Lycan Kings. The crowd erupted into whispers again. Ruled the wolves. That can't be real. Damon looked at the Lycan King. You expect me to believe she's some kind of ancient royal wolf? The king's expression remained calm. I don't expect you to believe anything. Then his eyes hardened slightly. But I do expect you to accept reality. He stepped closer to Damon. You rejected her. Another step. You humiliated her. Another step. And now you're discovering. His voice dropped into something cold and final. That you rejected the most powerful wolf your pack will likely ever see. Damon's face went pale. The truth was slowly sinking in. His wolf had sensed it earlier. That strange power he had felt during their bond. The energy he had ignored. He looked at me again. Really looked at me. For the first time. And regret flashed across his face. Arya, he said quietly. My wolf's ears twitched. But I didn't move. I didn't respond. Because the bond between us was gone. Completely gone. Damon swallowed hard. I made a mistake. The pack gasped. Their proud alpha had just admitted fault. But the Lycan King simply chuckled softly. Yes. You did. Damon looked desperate now. Then let me fix it. The words shocked everyone. You can't undo a rejection, one elder whispered. But Damon stepped forward quickly. I take it back. My wolf went completely still. Damon's voice rose louder. I take back the rejection. He looked directly at me. You are my true mate. Aria gasped in outrage. You can't be serious. But Damon ignored her. His eyes were locked on me now. You belong beside me, Arya, he said urgently. You always have. The entire clearing waited. Waiting for my answer. Waiting to see if I would forgive him. Waiting to see if I would go back. But before I could even speak, the Lycan King started laughing. Just a low, amused laugh. When he finally stopped, he looked Damon directly in the eyes. You truly are a fool. Damon's expression darkened. What do you mean? The Lycan King stepped beside me, then placed a protective hand on my shoulder. The moment his hand touched me, the mate bond flared again. The entire pack felt it. Gasps erupted everywhere. Damon staggered back. No. The Lycan King smiled slightly. Yes. His golden eyes gleamed under the moonlight. You rejected your mate. His voice became calm and final. And now. He looked down at me. She belongs to fate. Then he said the words that shattered Damon completely. She is mine. The clearing fell into stunned silence. And for the first time that night, I felt something new inside my chest. Hope. Chapter 6. The clearing remained frozen. No one moved or spoke. Because the Lycan King had just said the one thing no one expected. She is mine. The words echoed through the silent night like a decree from the moon goddess herself. I could feel every pair of eyes in the pack staring at me. And from one person, pure rage. Aria stepped forward angrily. "This is insane," she shouted. "You can't just take her like that." Her voice trembled with fury as she pointed at me. "She's nothing but a rejected wolf." My wolf growled low in my chest. The sound was deeper now. It carried a warning that made several wolves step back. But Aria refused to retreat. "She was never meant to stand beside an alpha," she continued bitterly. "She barely had the strength to shift before tonight." The Lycan King slowly turned his head toward her and the entire clearing instantly fell silent again. The coldness in his golden eyes was terrifying. "You speak very confidently," he said calmly. Aria lifted her chin stubbornly. "Because I know the truth." The king took one slow step toward her. The ground beneath his boots seemed to vibrate with power. "And what truth is that?" Aria hesitated slightly, but her pride pushed her forward. "That she was never good enough." Her words hung in the air. Then the Lycan King smiled. But it was not a friendly smile. It was the smile of a predator who had just found something amusing. "You are right about one thing." Aria blinked. "What?" "She was never meant to stand beside an alpha." For a brief moment, Aria looked victorious. But then the king finished his sentence. "She was meant to stand beside a king." The clearing exploded into shocked whispers. "What? Did he just... He can't be serious." Alaria's face went pale. Alpha Damon's fists clenched tightly. "This has gone too far," Damon said sharply. "You cannot claim someone from my pack without challenge." The Lycan King slowly turned to face him. "Challenge?" His voice was almost amused. Damon stepped forward. "If you intend to take her, you will have to prove you're right." The warriors shifted nervously. Everyone knew what Damon was suggesting. A dominance challenge. The Lycan King raised an eyebrow. "You wish to challenge me?" Damon hesitated for only a second. Then he straightened his shoulders. "Yes." Gasps spread through the pack. Even the elders looked horrified. "My alpha," one elder whispered urgently, "that is extremely unwise." But Damon ignored them. His pride had already taken control. "You cannot simply walk into my pack and take what is mine." The moment those words left his mouth, the Lycan King's expression changed. The amusement disappeared. Only cold authority remained. He stepped closer to Damon. "Your pack." Another step. "Your wolf." And another. "Your mate." The air around him suddenly felt heavy and oppressive. Every wolf in the clearing could feel the overwhelming pressure of his power. Then suddenly the Lycan King released a small fraction of his aura. The effect was instant. Warriors dropped to their knees. Several wolves gasped as the pressure forced them down. Even Damon staggered slightly. His wolf whined inside him. But the Lycan King had not even fully shifted. He had barely released his strength. And yet the entire clearing was already struggling to stand. The king leaned closer to Damon. "You truly do not understand your position, Alpha." Damon gritted his teeth, trying to resist the pressure. "I will not back down." The Lycan King sighed softly. "Very well." Then something terrifying happened. His golden eyes flashed brighter. And for a brief moment his Lycan form surfaced beneath his skin. The ground trembled. The trees around the clearing shook. A deep, ancient growl echoed through the forest. And Damon's wolf immediately collapsed. The alpha dropped to one knee, breathing heavily. His challenge had ended before it had even begun. The Lycan King straightened calmly. Challenge denied. No one in the clearing dared argue. The difference in power was simply too great. Then the king turned toward me. My wolf stood still as he approached. The mate bond between us pulsed again. He stopped directly in front of me. Then he did something that stunned the entire pack. He lowered his head slightly. A gesture of respect. To the wolf the moon goddess has chosen. Gasps spread through the clearing. A king showing respect to a rejected wolf. The Lycan King gently lifted my hand. His voice was calm and steady. Arya. My heart raced. Yes. His golden eyes softened slightly. Will you stand beside me? The question stunned me. For a moment I couldn't speak. This powerful ruler, the most feared wolf in the world, was asking me and not commanding. Behind him, Damon looked completely shattered. Aria looked furious. The entire pack waited, waiting to hear my answer. My wolf spoke quietly inside my mind. He did not reject us. I looked into the Lycan King's eyes again, and for the first time that night, I felt something stronger than pain, stronger than humiliation. Something new, something powerful. I took a slow breath, then finally answered. Yes. The moment the word left my lips, the mate bond flared brightly. The Lycan King smiled faintly, and the entire pack realized something that made them uneasy. The rejected wolf they had laughed at had just become the mate of the most powerful Lycan alive, and their alpha had been the one foolish enough to lose her. Chapter 7. The clearing was silent after my answer. Yes. The word still echoed in the night air. For a moment no one moved or spoke. Felt like time itself had paused. Then the whispers began. She said yes. She accepted the Lycan King. The rejected mate just became a queen. Shock spread across the pack like wildfire. I could see it clearly on their faces. The same wolves who had laughed at me minutes ago now looked confused, uneasy and even afraid. But the loudest reaction came from one person. Aria stepped forward, her face twisted with fury. No, she shouted. This is not happening. Her eyes burned as she looked at me. You can't leave. You belong here. My wolf lifted her head proudly. For the first time in my life, I didn't feel small standing in front of my sister. You made it clear I didn't belong here, I said quietly. Aria's lips trembled. That was before. The desperation in her voice made the pack shift uncomfortably. She turned toward Damon. Say something. But Damon hadn't moved. He stood frozen, staring at me like someone watching their entire world collapse. His wolf was restless beneath his skin. Finally he spoke. Arya. His voice sounded rough. I turned to look at him. For the first time since the rejection, I saw something in his eyes I had never expected. Fear. Don't do this, he said quietly. My heart tightened slightly. Not from love, but from the memory of what we once had. You already did this, Damon, I replied softly. The truth hung between us. He was the one who had broken the bond. He was the one who had thrown me away. Now he was simply facing the consequences. Damon ran a hand through his hair in frustration. I made a mistake, he admitted. The crowd murmured again. Their alpha had never admitted fault before. But tonight everything was changing. I thought Aria was the stronger choice, he continued. My sister flinched. But I was wrong. His eyes locked onto mine again. Come back. The words were desperate now. Stay with your pack. My wolf remained still. The pain of his rejection was still fresh. But something inside me had changed. I wasn't the same woman who had walked into this clearing earlier. That version of me had been broken, still hoping someone would choose her. But now I had already been chosen. I glanced beside me. The Lycan King stood calmly at my side. He hadn't interrupted. He hadn't forced my decision. He had simply waited, respecting my choice. My wolf spoke softly inside my mind. He trusts us. That trust meant more than Damon would ever understand. I turned back to Damon. You didn't just reject me, I said quietly. You humiliated me. The memory still burned. The laughter. The whispers. The cruel smiles. You broke the bond between us in front of everyone. Damon lowered his head slightly. I know. And now you want to undo it. He didn't answer. Because we both knew the truth. Some things couldn't be undone. The Lycan King finally spoke. His voice calm. You had your chance, Alpha. Damon looked up sharply. This isn't your business. The king raised an eyebrow. She accepted me as her mate. The words carried quiet authority. That makes it very much my business. Damon's wolf growled beneath his skin. But he knew better than to challenge the Lycan King again. The difference in power was simply too great. Finally, Damon stepped back. The defeat in his eyes was unmistakable. You're really leaving, he whispered. I took a slow breath then nodded. Yes. The word hit him harder than any attack could have. The pack watched in silence. Their alpha had lost his mate. Their future Luna. And possibly something far more valuable. The Lycan King turned slightly toward the forest. It's time to leave. Warriors stepped aside immediately. No one dared block his path. But just as we began to walk away, an elder suddenly stepped forward. King. The Lycan King stopped. What is it? The elder bowed deeply. You should know something before you take her. The king's eyes narrowed slightly. Speak. The elder glanced at me nervously. Her wolf, the shadow wolf. Yes. The elder swallowed. In the ancient records. He hesitated. Then finished the sentence. The shadow wolf was never meant to belong to a single pack. The clearing held its breath. What do you mean? The king asked calmly. The elder's voice dropped. She was meant to lead all wolves. Shock rippled through the crowd. Even I froze. Led all wolves? The Lycan King studied me for a long moment. Then a slow smile appeared on his face. Interesting. Damon's expression darkened again. But this time his anger was mixed with regret. Because now he understood something the rest of the pack was beginning to realize. He hadn't just rejected his mate. He may have rejected the future ruler of wolves. The Lycan King gently placed his hand on my back. Come, Arya. His voice was softer now. Our kingdom is waiting. And with that we walked away from the pack that had once been my home. But as we stepped into the dark forest, none of them realized the truth. Tonight was not the end of my story. It was only the beginning. And one day I would return. Not as the rejected wolf they had laughed at, but as something far more powerful. Something they would have no choice but to kneel before. Chapter 8. The forest was quiet as we left the territory of the Silver Fang pack. I didn't look back for once. Behind me, the only home I had ever known was disappearing into the darkness. The pack that had watched me grow up. The training fields where I had fought beside Damon. The clearing where my heart had shattered only hours earlier. All of it was fading behind us. But strangely, I didn't feel the crushing sadness I expected. Instead, there was a strange calm inside my chest. My wolf walked proudly beside the Lycan King. Our steps moved easily through the forest. His warriors followed silently behind us, their presence barely noticeable but impossible to ignore. They were larger than ordinary wolves. Stronger and more disciplined. Lycan warriors. For a while no one spoke. The only sounds were the distant calls of night creatures and the soft rustling of leaves beneath our feet. Finally, the Lycan King glanced toward me. You're very quiet. His voice was calm, almost thoughtful. I shifted slightly beside him. I just left my entire life behind tonight. He nodded once. That is true. His honesty caught me off guard. Most people would have tried to comfort me with empty words. But he simply acknowledged the truth. After a moment he asked another question. Do you regret it? I thought about that. About Damon. About Aria. About the laughter that had echoed through the clearing. My wolf growled softly at the memory. No, I said. The Lycan King studied me carefully. Good. Something about the way he said it made my wolf stir again. There was approval in his voice. Respect. Something Damon had never truly given me. The forest began to thin as we continued walking. And then suddenly the trees opened. I stopped walking. My breath caught in my throat. Before us, rising from the mountainside like something from an ancient legend, was a massive fortress. Stone towers stretched toward the sky. Silver banners marked with the Lycan crest waved in the wind. Torches burned along the outer walls, lighting the entire valley with a golden glow. This, I whispered. My voice trailed off. The Lycan King watched my reaction quietly. Welcome to the Lycan Kingdom. The gates of the fortress slowly opened as we approached. Guards standing along the walls immediately knelt when they saw him. King. Their voices echoed through the courtyard. Servants and warriors alike bowed their heads as we entered. But I noticed something else. Their eyes. They weren't just looking at him. They were looking at me too. Curious and surprised, but some of them even looked excited. One of the guards stepped forward. King, he said respectfully. You have returned earlier than expected. The Lycan King nodded slightly. There were unexpected developments. The guard's eyes briefly flicked toward me. Then he bowed again. Of course, Your Majesty. As we walked deeper into the fortress, I could feel the whispers spreading. Who is she? She came with the king. Is that the one the scouts mentioned? My wolf shifted uneasily. This place was beautiful and powerful. But it was also unfamiliar. And suddenly I realized something. Where will I stay? I asked quietly. The Lycan King stopped walking. Then he turned toward me. His golden eyes studied my face carefully. You will stay where my mate belongs. My heart skipped. Before I could respond, one of the warriors behind him stepped forward nervously. King, the warrior said. There is something you should know. The king looked at him. What is it? The warrior hesitated. We received reports from the Eastern Territory. The Lycan King's expression hardened slightly. What kind of reports? The warrior glanced at me briefly before answering. The rogue packs have started moving again. A tense silence fell between them. Rogues. I repeated quietly. The king nodded. Yes. His voice had become colder now. They have been gathering strength in the outer territories for months. Why? The warrior swallowed. They are looking for something. The Lycan King's eyes narrowed. What? The warrior hesitated again. Then said the words carefully. A wolf with ancient blood. My heart skipped again. The Lycan King looked at me slowly. And suddenly the entire situation felt heavier. The shadow wolf. The ancient bloodline. The prophecy the elder had mentioned. It wasn't just pack gossip. Something bigger was happening. Something dangerous. The Lycan King finally spoke again. Double the guards at the gates. Yes, my king. And send word to the council. The warrior bowed quickly and hurried away. I looked up at the Lycan King. Those rogues. He didn't answer immediately. Instead, he watched the dark mountains surrounding the fortress. Then finally said quietly, They've been searching for you. A chill ran down my spine. For me. His golden eyes met mine again. Yes. The air between us grew heavy. Because if the legends are true. His voice dropped slightly. The shadow wolf has the power to unite every wolf pack in existence. My heart pounded. Unite all wolves? That sounded impossible. But the way he was looking at me now told me something important. This wasn't just about being his mate anymore. This was about something much bigger. Something ancient. Something powerful. And somewhere out in the darkness beyond the mountains, there were wolves who wanted that power for themselves. The Lycan King stepped closer to me. His voice calm but firm. You are safe here. My wolf stirred softly inside me. For the first time since leaving the pack. I believed him. But deep down I also knew something else. My story was only beginning. And soon the entire wolf world would know my name. Chapter 9. The Lycan Palace was quieter than I expected. After the guards escorted us inside, the large stone doors of the fortress closed behind us with a deep echo that seemed to travel through the entire hall. For the first time since leaving my pack, I felt the full weight of everything that had happened tonight. My mate had rejected me. My sister had betrayed me. And now I stood inside the palace of the most powerful Lycan in existence. Beside him as his chosen mate. My wolf stirred uneasily. Everything changed too fast. He was right. My entire life had been turned upside down in a single night. The Lycan King must have noticed the tension in my posture. Come, he said calmly. He began walking deeper into the palace, and I followed beside him while the warriors silently peeled away toward different corridors. The inside of the palace was even more breathtaking. Tall pillars carved with ancient wolf symbols lined the massive hall. Silver chandeliers reflected the torchlight across the polished stone floors. Large banners bearing the Lycan crest hung from the walls. Everything about this place radiated power. But something else filled the air too. Respect. Every servant and guard we passed bowed deeply as the king walked by. King. But when their eyes shifted toward me, I saw curiosity. They knew, somehow they already knew. The Lycan King suddenly stopped walking. We're here. I looked up. A massive wooden door stood before us. 2 guards stepped aside immediately as he approached. This will be your chamber. My eyes widened. Chamber. He nodded. Yes. The door opened slowly. And when I stepped inside I froze. The room was enormous. Tall windows overlooked the dark mountains outside the palace. Soft lanterns illuminated elegant furniture and deep velvet curtains. A large bed stood in the center of the room. Everything looked warm, but suddenly I realized something. You said my chamber. I turned toward him. Where is yours? The Lycan King watched me for a moment. Then he said something that made my heart jump. Here. My wolf immediately stirred. Mate. My cheeks warmed slightly. You mean? This is the royal chamber. The meaning of that statement was impossible to ignore. This wasn't just a guest room. This was his room. Our room. The realization made my heart beat faster. But the Lycan King seemed completely calm. If that makes you uncomfortable, he said quietly, I can have another chamber prepared. The offer surprised me. Most alphas would have simply expected obedience. But he was giving me a choice again. I took a slow breath. No. My voice was soft but steady. I'll stay here. His eyes studied me carefully. Then he nodded once. As you wish. For a moment neither of us spoke. The tension between us was different now. Not awkward. Just aware. The mate bond pulsed quietly between us. Suddenly pain exploded in my chest and I gasped. My knees nearly gave out. The Lycan King caught me instantly. Arya. His voice sharpened with concern. What's wrong? The pain burned through my chest like fire. My wolf whimpered inside my mind. The bond. My breath came in short bursts. The broken bond. Understanding flashed in the Lycan King's eyes. The rejection backlash. I looked up at him in confusion. What does that mean? He helped me sit on the edge of the bed. When a mate bond is broken suddenly, he explained calmly, the pain doesn't disappear immediately. The burning in my chest intensified. But it will pass. Before I could respond, something strange happened. The pain suddenly shifted. My wolf growled softly. Someone is thinking about us. Thinking about us? Then the Lycan King said something that made my stomach tighten. Your former mate is struggling. My eyes widened. You can feel that? He nodded. Yes. My heart raced. What's happening to him? The Lycan King watched me carefully before answering. The rejection did not affect only you. My breath caught. Because you were his true mate. The words hung heavy in the air. When a true mate bond is broken. His voice dropped slightly. The alpha who caused it suffers the consequences. My mind immediately filled with Damon's face. His shock, regret, and his desperation. What kind of consequences? I whispered. The Lycan King looked toward the window. His expression calm but serious. His wolf will not rest. The pain in my chest pulsed again. He will feel the loss of the bond constantly. My wolf stirred softly. He broke it. Yes, the king said quietly. He did. He turned back toward me. And now he must live with that decision. A strange feeling settled in my chest. Not satisfaction. Not exactly, but something close to closure. Damon had made his choice. Now the consequences were his. The Lycan King stood slowly. You should rest. The exhaustion of the night finally began to catch up with me. But before he could leave the room, I spoke again. Wait. He paused. Then turned back toward me. Yes. My voice was quieter now. What happens next? For a moment he simply looked at me. Then a faint smile appeared on his face. Tomorrow. His golden eyes held a quiet intensity. The Lycan Council will meet. My wolf stirred again. Why? The king stepped closer. Because the moment I brought you into this palace, the air seemed heavier. The entire wolf world changed. My heart skipped. And some wolves, he continued quietly, will not like that. I looked out the window toward the dark mountains beyond the palace walls. Somewhere out there the rogue wolves were searching. Searching for the shadow wolf. Searching for me. And tomorrow the entire Lycan kingdom would learn exactly who I was. Or what I might become. Chapter 10. Morning arrived too quickly. I barely remembered falling asleep. The night had been long, heavy with emotions I still didn't fully understand. But when sunlight began pouring through the tall palace windows, I realized something strange. For the first time in years I had slept peacefully. No restless dreams or constant worry about proving myself to the pack. Just quiet. My wolf stirred softly. This place feels different. He was right. The Lycan Palace carried a sense of stability I had never felt before, but that calm didn't last long. A sharp knock sounded at the door. I sat up immediately. Enter. The door opened and two palace servants stepped inside, bowing respectfully. Good morning, Lady Arya. Lady. The word felt unfamiliar. His Majesty has asked that you join him in the council chamber, one of them explained. My heart skipped slightly. The council. The Lycan King had mentioned it the night before. Now? I asked. Yes, my lady. I took a deep breath. All right. The servants helped prepare me quickly, dressing me in a dark silver gown embroidered with the Lycan crest. When I looked at my reflection in the mirror afterward, I barely recognized myself. The girl who had been rejected in front of her entire pack last night was gone. Standing in her place was someone else. Someone stronger, someone who now carried the attention of the entire wolf kingdom. The palace halls were already alive with quiet activity when we stepped outside the chamber. Guards stood along the corridors. Servants moved quickly through the halls. But as I passed, they all bowed their heads. My lady. The attention still felt strange, but my wolf walked proudly beside me now. We had nothing to be ashamed of anymore. Soon we reached the large double doors of the council chamber. 2 armored guards stood on either side. One of them opened the doors slowly. The Lady Arya. The announcement echoed through the massive room. And suddenly, every pair of eyes turned toward me. The council chamber was enormous. A long stone table stretched across the center of the room, surrounded by powerful wolves. Lycan generals, noble alphas and ancient elders. Every one of them looked strong, dominant and dangerous, and all of them were staring at me. At the head of the table sat the Lycan King. His golden eyes met mine as I entered. He gestured slightly toward the seat beside him. Come. I walked forward slowly, trying not to show how nervous I felt. Whispers followed me across the room. That's her. The shadow wolf? She's younger than I expected. Is she really his mate? I ignored them and sat beside the king. The moment I did, the room grew quiet again. One of the older council members leaned forward. A tall, broad-shouldered Lycan with cold gray eyes. So, he said slowly, this is the wolf who has disrupted the entire kingdom overnight. The Lycan King didn't respond immediately. Instead he spoke calmly. Council, this is Arya. The man studied me carefully. You brought a stranger into the royal palace, he said bluntly. Without consulting the council. The king's voice remained steady. I brought my mate. That single sentence changed the entire atmosphere of the room. Several council members shifted in surprise. Others frowned. The gray-eyed Lycan leaned back slightly. So the rumors are true. His gaze sharpened. You claim she carries the shadow bloodline. My wolf stirred uneasily. The Lycan King nodded once. Yes. The council erupted into quiet discussion. That bloodline disappeared centuries ago. This could destabilize the entire wolf world. Or unite it. Finally, the gray-eyed Lycan raised his hand. The room fell silent again. There is only one way to confirm this. His eyes turned toward me. My wolf stiffened. What way? I asked. The man stood slowly. A test. The Lycan King's expression hardened slightly. What kind of test? The council member's voice was calm. A dominance test. My heart skipped. If she truly carries the shadow bloodline, he continued, her wolf will reveal it. The Lycan King looked at me briefly. He wasn't forcing me. Again the choice was mine. The gray-eyed Lycan stepped into the center of the chamber. Stand, he commanded. My wolf growled softly inside my mind. We are not afraid. Slowly I stood from my seat. The entire council watched closely. The man released a small portion of his aura. Power filled the room instantly. Several lesser wolves lowered their heads. Show us your wolf, he said. My heart pounded. The pressure of his dominance rolled toward me. But something strange happened. Instead of crushing me, the pressure faded the moment it reached me. My wolf stepped forward inside my mind. Gasps spread through the room. Did you see that? His aura didn't affect her. The gray-eyed Lycan frowned. He increased the pressure. The room trembled slightly. But again my wolf didn't react. The power simply rolled around me like wind against stone. The council members stared in disbelief. The Lycan King watched silently. Then my wolf did something unexpected. She pushed outward. Not aggressively. Just naturally. But the moment her presence touched the room, every wolf froze. A deep, ancient energy filled the chamber. Several council members lowered their heads instinctively. The gray-eyed Lietson's eyes widened. Impossible. My wolf's presence spread across the chamber like a rising tide. Even the strongest Lycans could feel it. Finally, the gray-eyed Lycan slowly dropped to one knee. The room went completely silent. Then he spoke the words no one expected. The shadow wolf has returned. One by one, other council members began lowering their heads respectfully. Even the generals. Even the ancient elders. Because they all felt it now. The Lycan King looked at me quietly. And a faint smile touched his lips. The council had just confirmed what the pack had been too blind to see. I had never been the weak wolf they thought I was. I had been something else entirely. Something ancient. Something powerful. Something the entire wolf world would soon have to acknowledge. And now they were beginning to kneel. Chapter 11. The council chamber had barely emptied when the first messenger arrived. The heavy doors burst open and a Lycan scout rushed inside, breathing hard from travel. King. The Lycan King turned slowly from the balcony overlooking the valley. What is it? The scout dropped to one knee. Alpha Damon of the Silver Fang pack is approaching the kingdom. The room fell silent. My wolf stirred instantly. Him. I felt the faint ache in my chest again. Not as sharp as before but still there. A reminder of the bond that had once existed. The Lycan King's expression didn't change. Is he alone? No, my king, the scout replied. A small escort of warriors accompanies him. I frowned slightly. Why would he come here? The Lycan King looked toward the mountains beyond the palace walls. Because the broken bond is destroying him. The words hung heavy in the air. The scout bowed his head. Our scouts say he looks unstable. My wolf growled quietly. He chose this. Yes, he had, but hearing it still stirred something uneasy inside me. The Lycan King finally turned toward the scout again. Let him approach the outer gates. The scout looked surprised. You will allow him entry? No. His voice was calm. But I will hear what he has to say. The scout bowed again and left quickly. Silence returned to the chamber. I walked toward the balcony where the king stood. The valley below stretched endlessly beneath the rising sun. Lycan warriors were already training in the courtyard below. Everything about this kingdom felt different from the pack I had left behind. You expected this, I said quietly. The Lycan King nodded. Yes. I looked at him. How? He folded his arms. An alpha who rejects his true mate does not simply move on. His golden eyes shifted toward me. The pain eats away at the wolf. I remembered the moment Damon had tried to take back the rejection. The desperation in his voice. I thought the bond was gone, I said. It is. But the consequences remain. My wolf watched him carefully. He understands the bond. More than anyone I had ever met. Before I could say anything else, another guard hurried into the chamber. King. The Lycan King turned. What now? The guard looked uneasy. Scouts from the eastern ridge have returned. That caught the king's attention immediately. Report. The guard hesitated. The rogue packs are moving again. My stomach tightened. How many? The king asked. At least 3 rogue factions have united. The king's expression hardened slightly. And their destination? The guard looked directly at me. The Lycan Kingdom. A chill ran down my spine. My wolf went still. They are coming. The Lycan King stepped closer to the guard. When? Our scouts estimate 2 days. The chamber grew quiet. 2 days, that wasn't much time. The king dismissed the guard. Then he turned toward me again. Looks like our enemies are getting impatient. My heart pounded slightly. They're coming for me. It wasn't a question. The king nodded once. Yes. My wolf stepped forward inside my mind. Then we fight. The king studied my expression carefully. You are not afraid. I shook my head slowly. I spent my whole life trying to prove I wasn't weak. The memory of the pack's laughter still echoed in my mind. But I'm done proving things to people. Something approving flickered in the king's eyes. Good. He walked toward the center of the chamber. Because if the rogues are truly coming... He stopped and looked back at me. You will need to learn how to control your power. My wolf stirred with interest. What kind of power? I asked. The king stepped closer again. The kind that frightened the entire council yesterday. The memory of their reactions flashed through my mind. How do I control something I don't understand? The king's expression softened slightly. You train. Before I could respond, a deep horn echoed from the outer walls of the fortress. Once, twice, then 3 times. Alarm. The Lycan King turned sharply toward the balcony. Report. A guard shouted from the courtyard below. King. Riders approaching the outer gates. My heart skipped. Damon. The king watched the distant road leading to the fortress. Dust clouds rose in the distance. Riders. Not many but enough to confirm it. Alpha Damon had arrived. My wolf stirred uneasily. He should not have come. The Lycan King glanced toward me. Do you want to see him? The question surprised me. For a moment I didn't know how to answer. The man who had rejected me. The man who had broken the bond. The man whose mistake had changed everything. My wolf finally spoke quietly. Let him see what he lost. I lifted my head. Yes. The Lycan King nodded. Then come. We walked toward the balcony together. Below us, the massive gates of the Lycan Kingdom began to open slowly. And in the distance Alpha Damon rode toward the fortress. But something about him looked different even from far away. His posture, his movements, and his aura. Something was wrong. Very wrong. The Lycan King narrowed his eyes. His wolf is breaking. My heart tightened slightly. As if Damon had truly lost control of his wolf. Then his arrival at the Lycan Kingdom might bring far more trouble than anyone expected. And somewhere beyond the mountains the rogue wolves were already on their way. The war for the Shadow Wolf had begun. Chapter 12. The horns on the fortress walls slowly faded. Below us, the great iron gates of the Lycan Kingdom opened just enough for the approaching riders to stop outside the outer courtyard. Alpha Damon had arrived. But the Lycan King didn't move to greet him. Instead he turned away from the balcony. Let the guards deal with him for now. I blinked in surprise. You're not going to see him? The king's voice was calm. Not yet. He began walking toward the exit of the council chamber. Right now there is something more important. My wolf stirred. Training. I followed him through the stone corridors of the palace. Outside the courtyard was alive with activity. Lycan warriors sparred in organized formations. Steel weapons clashed. Commands echoed through the training field. The moment the king stepped into the courtyard, every warrior stopped. King. He gestured for them to continue. Then he looked at me. This is where you will learn. I glanced around at the massive training ground. You're going to train me here? Yes. A few warriors nearby were already whispering. That's the Shadow Wolf. The king's mate. I heard she shook the entire council chamber. My wolf lifted her head proudly. The king stepped into the center of the training field. Shift. The command was simple. My wolf was already ready. The transformation came faster this time. Much faster. My body shifted smoothly as power flowed through my veins. When the change finished, my shadow wolf stood on the stone training ground. Black fur, silver markings glowing faintly. Several warriors nearby froze when they saw me again. Even some of the hardened Lycans looked uneasy. The king studied me carefully. Good. He stepped closer. How we begin? My wolf tilted her head. Begin what? Control. The king raised his hand slightly. Yesterday in the council chamber, your wolf released her presence instinctively. I remembered the moment. The way the entire room had gone silent. But you did not control it. He pointed toward the mountains surrounding the kingdom. Power without control attracts enemies. My wolf growled softly. We are ready. The king's golden eyes glowed faintly. Then show me. He released a small amount of his own aura. The pressure hit the training field instantly. Several warriors nearby stepped back. Even some experienced Lycans lowered their heads. My wolf felt the pressure too. But instead of submitting, she stepped forward. The silver markings on my fur glowed brighter. The king watched carefully. Yes. He increased the pressure. The air felt heavier. Warriors stopped sparring and turned toward us. Everyone could feel it. Two powerful wolves testing dominance. My wolf planted her paws firmly. Then something new happened. A strange shadow-like energy began moving along the silver markings on my fur. The king's eyes widened slightly. There it is. My wolf growled. The shadows spread slowly across the ground beneath my paws. Not darkness. Something deeper and ancient. The warriors watching began whispering nervously. What is that? I've never seen anything like it. The king stepped closer. Focus. My wolf concentrated. The shadows moved with her, following her movements, responding to her will. The king nodded slowly. You're beginning to understand it. My heart raced inside my wolf's body. So this is the shadow power? Yes. He looked directly into my eyes. Your wolf commands the oldest force in our world. Before I could ask anything else, a loud crash echoed from the outer courtyard. Warriors turned immediately. One of the palace guards ran toward us. King. The Lycan King turned sharply. What happened? The guard looked shaken. Alpha Damon. The king's expression hardened. What about him? The guard swallowed. He attacked the outer gate guards. Shock rippled through the training field. My wolf stiffened. Why? The guard looked uneasy. His wolf has lost control. The king's eyes darkened slightly. I warned them. The guard continued quickly. He's demanding to see you. My wolf felt a strange twist in my chest. The king looked toward the palace gates. His voice calm but firm. Bring him to the lower courtyard. The guard nodded and ran off. The training ground grew quiet. Every warrior knew what was coming. The king turned back toward me. Stay here. My wolf immediately growled. No. The king watched me carefully. This situation may become dangerous. I stepped forward. He came because of me. The king was silent for a moment. Then he nodded once. Very well. We walked toward the lower courtyard together. By the time we arrived, several warriors had already surrounded the area. And in the center of the courtyard, Alpha Damon stood restrained by 4 Lycan guards. But something about him was deeply wrong. His eyes were glowing wildly. His breathing was heavy. His wolf was clearly unstable. The moment he saw me, everything changed. Arya. His voice echoed through the courtyard. Desperate, broken and filled with a pain I had never heard before. My wolf froze. Because the bond might have been broke. But Damon was still suffering from it. And judging by the way his wolf looked now, that suffering was only getting worse. The Lycan King stepped forward calmly. You should not have come here, Alpha. Damon's eyes snapped toward him. You took her from me. The courtyard fell silent. The king's voice turned cold. You rejected her. Damon staggered slightly. His wolf was fighting for control. I made a mistake. My heart tightened slightly, but before anyone could say anything else, a scout suddenly burst into the courtyard. King. The king turned. What now? The scout's voice was urgent. The rogue armies have crossed the eastern mountains. The entire courtyard went still. They will reach the Lycan kingdom by morning. My wolf's silver markings began glowing again. As now it was clear. The war for the shadow wolf had truly begun. And every wolf in the kingdom could feel it. Chapter 13. The courtyard fell into a tense silence after the scout's report. The rogue armies have crossed the eastern mountains. The words spread through the gathered warriors like wildfire. Morning, that was all the time we had. The Lycan King didn't hesitate. His voice cut through the tension like a blade. Sound the war horns. The command echoed across the courtyard. Immediately, guards rushed toward the towers. Seconds later, a deep horn roared across the valley. Then another and another again. The entire Lycan kingdom was being summoned. Warriors began flooding into the courtyard from every direction. Armored Lycans, elite guards and battle-hardened fighters. The air quickly filled with the heavy tension of an army preparing for war. My wolf felt it too. Finally. But behind us, Alpha Damon was still struggling. The guards holding him tightened their grip as his wolf fought for control. Arya, he rasped. His voice sounded raw and desperate. I turned toward him slowly. The man who had once been my entire world now looked broken. His eyes were bloodshot. His posture unstable. The broken mate bond had clearly taken its toll. I came to fix this, he said hoarsely. My wolf remained still. You can't fix what you broke. The words came out calmer than I expected. Damon's shoulders sagged slightly. I didn't understand, he whispered. The Lycan King stepped forward. His presence immediately silenced the courtyard again. This is neither the time nor the place for your regrets. Damon glared at him weakly. You think you've won? The king raised an eyebrow. I didn't take anything from you. His voice turned colder. You threw it away yourself. Damon clenched his fists, but the fight drained from him quickly. Because deep down he knew it was true. Before the confrontation could continue, another scout sprinted into the courtyard. King. The Lycan King turned sharply. What is it? They're closer than we thought. The scout was breathing heavily. Rogue forces have reached the eastern border villages. A wave of anger rolled through the gathered warriors. They're attacking civilians? Cowards. The Lycan King's eyes flashed. Prepare the front guard. Several generals stepped forward immediately. King. You will hold the eastern valley until the main army arrives. They bowed and ran to gather their units. The courtyard became a storm of movement. Armor clanged. Weapons were drawn. Orders were shouted. War had arrived. The Lycan King turned toward me. You stay inside the fortress. My wolf growled instantly. Absolutely not. I stepped forward. They're coming for me. That may be true. Then I fight. The king studied my face carefully. You've never fought a real battle before. My wolf lifted her head proudly. Then today is the first. Several nearby warriors watched us nervously. No one spoke. Finally the king exhaled slowly. You're stubborn. My wolf's tail flicked slightly. Yes. For a long moment he said nothing. Then he nodded once. Very well. My heart jumped. But you stay beside me. I nodded. The king turned toward the assembled warriors. Move out. The massive gates of the Lycan kingdom opened again. Warriors poured through them like a dark tide heading toward the mountains. Within minutes we were racing across the eastern valley. The wind rushed through my fur as my wolf ran beside the king's massive Lycan form. His warriors moved with incredible speed. Soon the scent reached us. Blood, smoke, rogue wolves. My wolf growled deeply. They are here. The battlefield appeared just beyond the ridge. A small border village. Houses burning. Villagers fleeing. And in the center of it all rogue wolves. Dozens of them. Their eyes wild. Their fur scarred and savage. One of the rogue leaders spotted us first. There. He pointed directly at me. The shadow wolf. So that's what this was. They weren't just attacking randomly. They had been hunting me. The Lycan King's voice thundered across the battlefield. Charge. The Lycan army slammed into the rogues like a storm. The battle erupted instantly. My wolf leapt forward. The first rogue lunged at me. But this time I didn't hesitate. I moved faster than I ever had before. My claws slashed across his shoulder. He collapsed instantly. My wolf froze. We did that. But there was no time to process it. Another rogue attacked. Then another. The battle swirled around me. And suddenly something changed. The silver markings on my fur began glowing again. The shadows beneath my paws spread across the ground responding to my will. The rogues felt it immediately. Several of them backed away in fear. What is that? That's not normal wolf power. My wolf stepped forward. The shadows surged outward like a living tide. And suddenly the battlefield went quiet. Because every wolf there felt it. The ancient presence. The power of the shadow wolf. Even the rogue leader stared at me in shock. So the rumors are true. He smiled darkly. Perfect. My wolf growled. What do you mean? The rogue leader wiped blood from his mouth. We've been searching for you. My heart pounded. Why? His smile widened. Because whoever controls the shadow wolf. His eyes gleamed with dangerous ambition. Controls every wolf in existence. The battlefield fell silent. Because now the truth was clear. This war wasn't just about territory. It was about power, about control, and about the future of every wolf in the world. And every rogue standing in that valley had come for one thing. Me. Chapter 14. The battlefield grew strangely quiet after the rogue leader's words. Whoever controls the shadow wolf controls every wolf in existence. Smoke drifted through the burning village. Around us, Lycan warriors and rogue wolves stood facing each other, tense and ready. The rogue leader smiled slowly. You don't even know what you are yet, do you? My wolf stepped forward. The shadows beneath my paws curled like living smoke. I know enough, I growled. The rogue leader laughed. You know nothing. Before I could respond, a voice echoed from behind the rogue army. Move aside. The rogues parted slightly, and someone stepped forward. The moment I saw her, my wolf froze. Aria. My sister walked into the open clearing. But she didn't look like the woman who had stood beside Damon during the rejection ceremony. Her hair was wild. Her eyes were sharp. And she wore dark armor marked with rogue symbols. The Lycan King stepped beside me instantly. His voice dropped to a dangerous tone. You betrayed your own pack. Aria laughed bitterly. My pack. She looked at me with burning hatred. That pack chose her. The rogue leader gestured toward me. She made the deal herself. The Lycan warriors murmured in disbelief. My wolf's growl deepened. You led them here. Alara's smile widened. Yes. Her eyes gleamed with twisted triumph. I told them where to find you. My chest tightened slightly. Even after everything she had done, part of me still struggled to understand how she could go this far. You betrayed your own blood. Her face hardened. No. Her voice was sharp. You stole the life that should have been mine. The battlefield fell silent again. Aria pointed at me. You were supposed to be the weak sister. Her voice shook with rage. The forgotten one. My wolf's shadows shifted across the ground. But suddenly the moon goddess chooses you. She laughed bitterly. You become the powerful one. Her gaze moved briefly toward the Lycan King. And now you stand beside the most powerful wolf alive. The jealousy in her voice was undeniable. You think you deserve that? My wolf stepped forward slowly. I didn't ask for any of this. That's the worst part. Aria snapped. You didn't even try. Her voice cracked slightly. I worked for everything. The rogue leader watched the argument with amusement. Then he clapped slowly. How touching. The sound snapped the tension. But this family drama is wasting time. He looked directly at me. We didn't come here for conversation. Several rogue wolves stepped forward. The Lycan King's warriors immediately formed a defensive line. The rogue leader pointed at me. Bring me the shadow wolf. The rogues lunged forward. The battle exploded again. Claws and fangs clashed in violent chaos. My wolf leapt forward. The shadows surged with me. Another rogue alpha charged straight at me. But before he could reach me, the shadows wrapped around his legs, dragging him down. My wolf struck instantly. The Lycan warriors nearby stared in shock. Did you see that? She controlled the shadows. The battle raged around us. But in the center of it all, Aria stepped forward again. She shifted suddenly. Her wolf form lunged toward me. Silver gray fur. Sharp eyes filled with rage. The moment she attacked, my wolf met her head-on. Our bodies slammed together. The force knocked both of us across the ground. We circled each other slowly. Two sisters. Two wolves. But only one of us still had honor. Aria growled viciously. You should have stayed weak. My wolf's eyes glowed. I was never weak. She attacked again. But this time I was ready. The shadows surged beneath her paws, trapping her. She struggled violently. How are you doing this? My wolf stepped closer. Because now I understood something important. The power didn't just belong to the shadows. It belonged to me. I'm not the girl you used to bully anymore. Aria snarled. You think winning a few fights makes you strong? I looked directly into her eyes. No. My wolf's voice echoed through the battlefield. But betraying everyone you ever loved. The shadows tightened around her. Makes you weak. Aria collapsed onto the ground. The rogue wolves froze when they saw their ally defeated. The rogue leader growled. This isn't over. But at that moment the rest of the Lycan army arrived. Hundreds of warriors flooded the battlefield from the eastern ridge. The rogues immediately began retreating. Their leader stepped back slowly. This war has only begun. He looked at me one last time. We will come for you again, Shadow Wolf. Then he vanished into the forest with the remaining rogues. The battlefield slowly fell quiet. Aria remained trapped beneath the shadows. Lycan warriors surrounded her quickly. The Lycan King approached me slowly. You could have killed her. I shifted back into my human form. My body trembled slightly from the battle. She's still my sister. Aria looked up at me with hatred burning in her eyes. You should have finished it. Maybe. But I had already made my choice. The Lycan King turned toward the warriors. Take her to the fortress. They dragged Alara away. As the battlefield quieted, another figure stepped forward slowly from the edge of the clearing. Alpha Damon. He had witnessed the entire battle. His eyes were wide with disbelief. You. His voice was barely a whisper. You defeated them. My wolf stirred softly. But the truth in his eyes hurt more than his rejection ever had. Because now he finally saw me. Finally understood what he had lost. And it was already too late. Chapter 15. The battlefield slowly fell silent. Smoke drifted across the ruined village as the last of the rogue wolves disappeared into the dark forest. Lycan warriors moved through the area, helping the wounded and securing the captured rogues. But in the center of the battlefield no one moved. Because everyone was watching us. Watching me and watching the man who had once rejected me. Alpha Damon stood several steps away, his eyes fixed on me like he was seeing a stranger. Perhaps he was. Because the girl he had rejected beneath the full moon was gone. Standing before him now was someone else. Someone stronger. Someone who had survived the humiliation he had caused. Someone who had fought beside the Lycan King. Damon slowly walked closer. The warriors around us remained tense, ready in case he lost control again. But this time he didn't look violent. He looked defeated. His wolf was quiet now and broken. You saved them, he said quietly. His voice carried none of the arrogance he once had. You saved the village. I didn't answer immediately. Instead I simply watched him. The man who had once been my future. What do you want, Damon? The question hung heavily between us. For a moment he couldn't answer. Then he lowered his head. I came here to beg you to come back. My wolf remained still. The Lycan King stood beside me, silent but powerful. Damon glanced at him briefly. Then looked back at me. I was wrong. The words sounded painful for him to say. I thought strength meant choosing the wolf who looked the strongest. He swallowed hard. But tonight I saw the truth. His voice cracked slightly. You were always the strongest one. The battlefield remained silent. Everyone was listening, waiting to hear my answer. I didn't understand what I had, Damon continued. But now I do. He stepped forward. Come back to the Silver Fang pack. My wolf didn't move. The old me might have cried hearing those words. Might have felt hope. Might have believed him. But that version of me had died the moment he rejected me. You didn't lose me because I left, I said quietly. Damon's face tightened. You lost me the moment you rejected me. The truth struck him harder than any blow. His shoulders sagged. I know. My wolf spoke softly inside my mind. He understands now. But understanding came too late. The Lycan King finally stepped forward. His voice calm but firm. This conversation is finished. Damon looked up sharply. You think you've won? The king didn't react. This was never a competition. His golden eyes moved toward the gathered warriors. Fate simply corrected a mistake. Damon exhaled slowly. Then something surprising happened. He stepped back, lowered his head, and dropped to one knee. Gasps spread across the battlefield. An alpha kneeling. My mistake cost me everything, Damon said quietly. His voice was filled with bitter regret. But I won't make another one. He raised his head slightly. Pie Queen. The title echoed across the valley. Several Lycan warriors exchanged shocked looks. But Damon wasn't finished. He stood slowly. Then turned toward the gathered warriors and alphas who had arrived with the Lycan army. You all saw it, he said loudly. You saw the power of the shadow wolf. The other wolves murmured. Because they had. Damon's voice rose slightly. The wolf world has waited centuries for her return. He looked at me again. And tonight she proved it. The Lycan King watched him carefully. Then he stepped forward beside me. His voice carried the calm authority of a ruler. The wolf world stands at the edge of a new era. Every wolf present listened carefully. For centuries the packs have fought among themselves. He looked toward the distant mountains where the rogues had fled. And those divisions created enemies. The Lycan King turned toward me. But the moon goddess has given us something different. His voice grew stronger. A wolf capable of uniting us. The warriors around us began lowering their heads. First the Lycans. Then the visiting alphas. One by one. Respectfully. Even Damon lowered his head again. My heart pounded. because I finally understood what the elder in my old pack had meant. The shadow wolf was never meant to belong to one pack. He was meant to lead them all. The Lycan King looked at me quietly. Arya. My wolf stirred proudly. Yes. His golden eyes shone under the fading sunset. Will you stand beside me? Not as a mate or as his partner, but as something greater. Something the wolf world had not seen for centuries. My answer came without hesitation. Yes. The Lycan King smiled faintly. Then he turned toward the gathered wolves. His voice echoed across the valley. Kneel. And they did. Every wolf present dropped to one knee because the truth was undeniable now. The rejected wolf they had once laughed at had become something far greater. The Lycan King took my hand. Then he spoke the words that sealed my destiny. Behold your queen. The valley filled with the sound of wolves bowing their heads. And in that moment I finally understood something important. The night my mate rejected me, I thought my life had ended. But in truth, that was the night my reign began. But every reign begins with justice. Aria was taken back to the Lycan kingdom in chains. For betraying her pack and leading rogue wolves to innocent villages, the Lycan council stripped her of her rank and banished her beyond the northern mountains. From that day forward she would live as a rogue, forever cut off from the wolf world she once tried to control. The rogue armies scattered after the battle, hunted across the territories by Lycan warriors. Their leader vanished into the wilderness, but every wolf knew his days were numbered. As for Alpha Damon, his punishment was the heaviest of all. He returned to the Silver Fang pack alone, forced to live with the memory of the mate he rejected and the queen he could never have. And every time the wolves bowed their heads before me, he would remember the night he threw away his destiny. And that was the night everything changed. The night a rejected mate became the queen of wolves. But tell me something. If you were in Aria's place, would you have forgiven the alpha who rejected you? Or would you have chosen power instead? Let me know in the comments below. And if you enjoy dark paranormal romance stories filled with betrayal, revenge, and powerful mates, make sure you subscribe to the channel and turn on the notification bell, because the next story might be even more dangerous. Until the next full moon,